Nosy parents of teenagers, what do you wish you shouldn't have seen? So, there's a thing about helicopter parents, and those that are all up in their kids' business in general. It doesn't seem to do any good for anyone involved. The parent is just uptight and intrusive, and the kid has no sense of freedom or self-direction. So it's nice to hear about instances when the nosy parent got what they deserved by depriving their kid of privacy and sanctuary. Let's hear what some of the stories have to say. Story 2. I'm not really a parent, but I suppose the easiest classification here would be stepmom. When wandering around my boyfriend's ex-mom's property to visit his daughter, she had custody and lives with her mom, we found a noose strung up in a tree back in his daughter's play area of the forest. She was 12 at the time. About a week or two later, or before, I don't remember, her mom, the ex, found a seppuku note back there. It was written in Crayola marker and filled with, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." It was absolutely heartbreaking to read. We've all tried to say we're definitely not a normal family, and it's been hard on his daughter. She's doing better now and has a ton of great friends, but it was about the worst thing to find. Since that time, there has been a lot of talk about being open about feelings. She's talked to school counselors, and her mom is trying to pay more attention to her. When my boyfriend and I are able to have her with us, we play Dungeons & Dragons with her, and she's hooked on it. Seriously, other than homework, she spends all her time making modules and writing character backstories. It was a chilling discovery that day in the forest, but it could have been far worse. She could have been in the noose, and now we're all a lot closer. Story 3. I'm not a parent, but on my 16th birthday, my girlfriend at the time was over and we were in my room watching a movie, just chillin'. I went downstairs at a point during the night, leaving the girlfriend in the room to get a drink of water. Whilst downstairs, my mother asked me if I had any laundry to be done. This wouldn't be strange for most 16-year-old guys, but I had been doing my own laundry since I was 14, due to my parents regularly being away for days at a time for work. I was confused, but just replied, "No, I did some yesterday. I'm checking anyway." So she did. I got my glass of water and one for the girlfriend and started my path back to my room, when 2 shrill screams came from that direction. I ran to the door. My mother storms out, eyes on the ground, and grumbles, "I'm never going into your freaking room again." I enter the room, perplexed, only to find my girlfriend wrapped in a bedsheet on the bed, her clothes strewn on the ground. She had been sitting on the edge of the bed with nothing on whatsoever when my mother walked in. The night was ruined, and my mother never entered my room again. I'm sure she regrets being such a nosy fool. You know, in my opinion, a good parent would know to respect the boundaries of a 16-year-old. Especially if they're already self-sufficient enough to do their own laundry and basically care for themselves to an extent. High school age is prime time for these activities, and the mom must have known that, so she was being very nosy by insisting on checking his laundry, and it just really sucks that the girlfriend had to pay the price. After all, she was just trying to do something nice for the boyfriend. Story 4. Not a parent. This happened a couple years ago when I still lived with my mom and stepdad. My stepsister used to live in my room, and it had been nearly a year since she moved out. I had a vibrating dill pickle dough that my best friend had bought me as a joke, but not really a joke, for a birthday gift. I used it frequently, and I would hide it in the bottom of a drawer in my closet, hidden in a hat. My mom decided to snoop and found it, but somehow thought it was my stepsister and kept it. I asked her about it, and she was blown away by the fact that I had used it, but she was going to send the toy in the mail back to my sister without telling her. Now that would have been a disaster. Too long didn't read. My mom almost sent my dill pickle dough to my sister in the mail. Update, I texted her about it, and she had the typical response, like, "Not my daughter." And yes, I did get it back, but soon threw it out because the thought of my mom knowing what I use was too much. Story 5. In high school, I bought a pipe for weed. It went missing days afterwards, so naturally I was panicked. I searched the house top to bottom and asked my brother, who was 12, if he had it. His answer was no, and it sent me into a panicked loop of searching the house, asking my brother. I had written it off until a month later when I heard a commotion from my brother's room. My father found the pipe, and my brother claimed it was mine. My father stormed down the hall and woke me up with, "Is this your hash pipe?" I had to stifle a laugh. First time I had even heard the word hash used as a drug name, and told him, "Nope, never seen that before." He went down the hall and proceeded to kick the crap out of my brother for smoking hash and lying. Still, to this day, I have a smile on my face telling this story. Worst part is, I don't think he ever even got to smoke anything out of the pipe. He was just a kleptomaniac. Just a quick flashback to Eric Foreman telling Red that those were pencil shavings in his sock drawer. Story 6. My mom taught me how to wash my own clothes at age 6. She honestly hated doing the laundry that much. For my birthday once, I turned down her offer of $100 to instead just do my laundry, adding that it would honestly appeal to me that much. She still wouldn't do it, and left Benjamin in my coat pocket. Being a late bloomer, I took home a girl to meet my parents, and I had done it with her for the first time at 21 in their basement, as many young men do. Not wanting her to find the condom in the garbage can, I emptied the rubber and pocketed it. I then changed clothes so I wouldn't smell like I was doing it. You guessed it, 90 minutes later, I see my mom folding my clothes. "You're doing my laundry for the first time in 15 years. Sigh, and you of course checked the pockets. She folded quietly, looking down. Yes, John Von Rhine, I found the condom. 8 years ago, and that was, and likely always will be, the last time she did my laundry. Story 7. So, I have a bunch of weird sleep issues, and one of them is the ability to hold conversations with people while I am in a deep sleep. I have no memory of the conversations. My mom found out about this when I was a teenager, and apparently she would sneak into my room in the middle of the night and sleep while I would dish out all the scoop. Who was having a party, who I liked, which of my friends made bad life choices, everything. She would never punish me for it, but would give advice based on what sleep me confessed. It always confused me on how much she knew about my life. When I'm extra tired or stressed, this comes back, and apparently I've had hilarious conversations with my husband. I have just recently discovered that I pass this trait down to my son. Part of me is tempted to get the scoop from my kid, but another part of me wants to respect his personal space. Yeah, that would be the right call, to just ignore this trait of her son's. It's like he's been given a truth serum and can't help but spill all the beans. But if she takes advantage of that, it's no different than eavesdropping or sneaking a peek into your kid's diary. You gotta respect their privacy and let them go through some stuff on their own, make their own mistakes, and figure out when they want to seek your advice on certain things. Let them come to you. Story 8. Not a parent story, but my piece of crap brother-in-law would try to catch me doing stuff. My sister is much older, so I'd stay with them sometimes in the summer when I was a kid. He showed me his new computer and then said, "Don't give anyone my AOL password," and just left me alone for a day while they worked. I was 12 with free reign to the internet. He came home with a perverted grin on his fat face. "Did you know I can see what websites you've been to today?" "Oh, I can." He sat down at his computer, fired up the history with a glint in his dead pig eyes, and saw 12 hours of activity of me doing two things, reading about Animorphs and Star Trek, and chatting about Animorphs and Star Trek. Story 9. Not a parent, but this scenario is kind of the other way around. I found an uncomfortably large vibrator in my mom's room once when I was looking for candy, which she often hoards. Oh, and it wasn't the cheap kind either. They didn't spare any realism when they made that thing. Even worse, I thought it was a flashlight. You can imagine my surprise when the flashlight had veins, but of course the most traumatizing part was when I pressed the button and instead of illuminating the drawer, it vibrates intensely. Took me half an hour to find out how to turn it off. Story 10. The little boy I tutor gave me his iPad so I could find some music on YouTube to play in the background. Opened the search bar, typed A for whatever song it was, and the first suggestion was, "A girl's butt close up." "How did that get in there?" my 9-year-old pupil exclaimed, incredulous. "I did not search that." It did not matter that he was the only person in the household with that level of writing capability. I just kept going, found my music, and didn't tell his very strict mom. "No, no, 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 no. We don't want them far away booties. We want them close up booties. This kid knows how to Google." Story 11. Back in high school, my friend Allie's house was right next to our campus. I wasn't allowed to go hang out after school, though. No boys were, unless her mother was home. Why? Because Mom had walked in on Allie giving a guy oral in the basement one day. The only reason I actually know this story is because one day I was there with parental supervision, and when Mom had to leave for errands, she said, "Well, I wish I could leave you guys here alone, but I guess Allie really blew that chance." I have never seen a teenager turn that red. Story 12. Not a parent. Went to take a pee in a stall at school. Found a cell phone on the toilet paper dispenser. It didn't have a lock screen. I thought I would search in the contacts for someone the owner spoke to regularly, mom or whoever, to send them a text. Found your son's phone. It'll be with campus security. As soon as I swiped to unlock, it opened to a Google image search result page for attractive she-males. I wiped the browser history, turned it into security, and went about my day like nothing happened. It was at that moment I realized how numb I was to odd stuff. This OP is Good Guy Greg, but also probably worth mentioning that she-males is not really odd, but maybe just unconventional. Very hot topic nowadays, so I'll leave that to you for discussion in the comments if anyone is really wanting to get into it with somebody. Story 13. I raised a daughter as a single father. I am not a natural snoop. I try to not be too nosy. The worst part for me was having her around my mom. My mom is more nosy than any 5 people I've ever met. My mom was left alone in my house with just the dog when my daughter was 15. My daughter is now in her mid-20s, and I still have not heard the last from my mom about her having 3 different vibrators and therefore is somehow perverted. She hasn't lived at home since she left for college at 18, and I'm still hearing about it. Story 14. Not a parent, but a witness to their finding something they didn't want to see. Work IT guy had his daughter's computer that was having issues opening some photo applications and needed it fixed. As we're going through and checking if it worked yet, opened up and presented an image of his daughter, naked, holding a huge dill pickle dough. No words were exchanged. He closed the lid and left. Story 15. As a kid, it seemed like no matter where you hid your stuff, your mother would find it. I had a nice stash of Spank mags when I was a young teen and decided I would hide them in one of my guitar cases, even behind the guitar. My mother would have absolutely no reason whatsoever to open one of those. She still found them and acted like she wasn't looking for anything. Oh yeah, she was definitely in detective mode to get to that level of snooping. It's highly unlikely that she was secretly using your guitar to practice so that she could surprise you with Stairway to Heaven or something. Also, privacy aside, but just in general, I think it's proper etiquette to not touch other people's instruments. Often they're very expensive or delicately calibrated or tuned, and I would think it's very annoying to have a prized possession fondled about without your knowledge or permission. Did you touch my drum set? Story 16. Neither of my parents seem to be nosy, but I have had some interesting moments. Like, at one point, my dad wanted me to look something up on the web and saw I had Medina Arabic on the bookmark tab. And naturally, his first response is, "Are you trying to join ISIS?" I'm just really into languages, something that apparently my family finds really weird. Story 17. Typical, not a parent. I was helping my recently turned teen cousin with a computer problem. I know his dad has some controls set, so I did a little snooping to see how effective they were. Apparently, his kids discovered Futanari and hentai. He likes the classic Black Bible he searched for a lot. Didn't tell his dad, but I did Purell the frick out of my hands. Story 18. When we moved house and all the stuff was in the new place, one of the moving guys called me out to double-check the receipt, and when we were out of my mom's earshot or eyeline, He handed me the weed pipe that had fallen out of the hidey hole in the back of my desk when they were moving it. What a bro. Story 19. My mom found a thing saying I was bi and confronted me while crying about it and begging me to tell her why I had turned away from God. 6 years later, and I'm still so far in the closet, I may as well rule Narnia. Also, she found my yaoi stash when I was a freaking weeb. Story 20. I once found a sock that would not only stand on its own, but could be used to prop a window open. I would have sat the kid down for a conversation, but I don't have kids. I also have an uneven number of socks now. Please leave your stories in the comments. I'd love to make a video of them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.